Hello, I am Isaac from the Mountain Takes, and on May 25, 2023, at 5 p.m., Luis Stitzinger was the last climber to summit Kangchenjunga at 8,586 meters alone, without oxygen, carrying skis for a historic first descent. At 9 p.m., his final radio contact came from 8,300 meters. 5 days later, his body was found just 100 meters lower at 8,400 meters. He was one of the world's most renowned ski mountaineers. He had skied 7 different 8,000-meter peaks. But on Kangchenjunga, the mountain took him. Anyway, sit tight, because now I'm going to explain what actually happened. The descent from Kangchenjunga's summit is one of the most dangerous sections on any 8,000er. The mountain is steep, the snow and ice are unstable. The altitude is so extreme that your brain is literally dying from lack of oxygen with every breath. At 8,300 meters, the air contains only 1/3 the oxygen available at sea level. Your judgment is compromised, your decision-making ability is impaired, your body is in a state of crisis that most people cannot even imagine. And at 9 p.m. on May 25, 2023, Luis Stitzinger radioed from exactly this location that he was descending. He had his skis with him. He was planning to ski down. He was planning to make the first complete ski descent of Kangchenjunga, the third highest mountain on Earth. No one had ever done this before. Luis Stitzinger was going to be the first. He had prepared for this moment. He had trained for this moment. He was one of the world's best ski mountaineers. He had skied down Gasherbrum II, Nanga Parbat, Broad Peak K2O, Manaslu, and Shishapangma. He had 7 ski descents of 8,000-meter peaks to his credit. He knew what he was doing, and then he disappeared. Luis Stitzinger was born on December 16, 1968, in Füssen, Germany, in the Bavarian Alps. From childhood, mountains were his home. He grew up in a region where skiing and mountaineering were part of the culture. He was educated at both Technical University Munich and Ludwig Maximilian University, but his true education came from mountains. He became a certified mountain guide and expedition leader. He built a career around extreme skiing on the world's highest peaks. He was not a risk taker, he was a calculated professional, but he was also someone who pushed boundaries that most people wouldn't even consider approaching. His wife, Alix von Mel, was equally famous in mountaineering circles. She was one of Germany's greatest mountaineers, having summited 7 8,000ers without supplementary oxygen. They had married in 2011. They climbed together. They skied together. They understood each other's relationship with mountains in a way that few couples could. But this climb on Kangchenjunga in May 2023, Luis was doing alone. His wife was at home in Germany. He was on the mountain by himself, carrying skis, planning to do something no one had ever done before. The expedition to Kangchenjunga had begun with a failed attempt. On May 18, 2023, Luis had summited with a group, including the famous Norwegian climber Kristen Harila. But Luis had made a wrong turn in the upper part of the mountain. He had entered the wrong couloir. He missed the actual summit. Most climbers would have been devastated. Luis was pragmatic. He descended, but here is what made this moment significant. He skied down from Camp 4. He successfully descended the mountain on skis. He reported back to his wife that the snow conditions between 8,000 meters and base camp were excellent for skiing. He knew the route. He knew the conditions. He knew that a ski descent was possible. 7 days later, on May 25th, he returned for another summit attempt. This time, he would summit and immediately begin his historic ski descent. The weather was good. The conditions were favorable. He climbed with a group permit from 7 Summit Treks, a Nepali expedition operator. He moved methodically up the mountain. By 5 p.m. that afternoon, he reached the summit. He was alone at the top, the last climber to summit that day. He had his skis with him. He was ready to begin the first complete ski descent of Kangchenjunga. Flor Cuenca, a Peruvian climber, had summited earlier that day, also without supplementary oxygen. She had agreed to wait for Luis at Camp 4, the last camp before the summit. When Luis reached the summit, his plan was to descend to Camp 4, collect his skis, and begin the ski descent. But something happened between the summit and Camp 4. Somewhere on that descent, in the darkness at extreme altitude, Luis Stitzinger stopped radioing updates. His last radio contact was at approximately 9 p.m. on May 25th. He reported his position as approximately 8,300 meters, about 3,000 feet below the summit. He reported that he was descending. He gave no indication that anything was wrong, but at 9 p.m. at 8,300 meters in the dark at extreme altitude, his communication ceased. Flor Cuenca waited at Camp 4 for Luis to arrive. He never came. She waited through the night. Nothing. By morning, it was clear that something had gone wrong on the descent. A rescue was immediately initiated. But rescue at 8,000 meters on Kangchenjunga is not simple. The weather is unpredictable. Helicopters cannot operate reliably at extreme altitude. The mountain is remote. 7 summit treks organized a search party. They attempted to mount a rescue operation, but the weather turned bad. The forecast called for deteriorating condition. On May 28th, a helicopter was prepared to fly. Rescue personnel to the area, but high winds and snow grounded the helicopter. The rescue was delayed. On May 29th, the weather improved slightly. A helicopter finally departed with a rescue team. They flew to Kangchenjunga. They began searching the descent route. They looked for any sign of Luis Stitzinger, and on May 30th, 2023, 5 days after his final radio contact, they found him. His body was located at 8,400 meters, just 100 meters below where he had last reported his position. The medical examination would later determine that Luis Stitzinger died from high-altitude cerebral edema combined with exhaustion. HACE is when the brain swells from the severe lack of oxygen at extreme altitude. It causes confusion, loss of coordination, irrational behavior, and ultimately loss of consciousness. Combined with the exhaustion of a day-long climb and descent at extreme altitude, it had been fatal. He had attempted to descend in darkness. His brain was swelling. His body was exhausted. He had probably become confused. He may have lost consciousness. He had fallen or collapsed just 100 meters below his last known position. What made this tragedy particularly painful was the gap between his last radio contact and when his body was found. 5 days. 5 days on a glacier at 8,400 meters. 5 days in conditions where rescue was nearly impossible. His wife, waiting in Germany for updates, had to endure those 5 days knowing something was wrong. Flor Cuenca, waiting at Camp 4, had to descend and return to base camp, carrying both her gear and Luis's gear, worried about what had happened above. In an Instagram post, Flor Cuenca expressed her bitterness about the rescue response. She noted that no one moved quickly to help Luis. The helicopter delay, the weather, the complexity of mountain rescue at extreme altitude, all of it combined to create a situation where a world-class mountaineer died just 100 meters below his last position, and his body remained undiscovered for 5 days. Kangchenjunga was Luis Stitzinger's 10th 8,000er. It was his first and only visit to this mountain. He had come not as a guide, not as part of a commercial expedition, but as a private citizen pursuing his dream to make the first complete ski descent of the 3rd highest mountain on Earth. He had the skills, he had the experience. He had done similar things on other mountains, but Kangchenjunga had other plans. The climbing community mourned. German mountaineers mourned. Alex von Mel mourned the loss of her husband and climbing partner. The expeditions he had guided were canceled. The mountains he had planned to climb would remain unclimbed by him. A career that had spanned decades, that had accomplished things most mountaineers could only dream of, had ended on a descent at 8,400 meters on a mountain he had never climbed before. I am Isaac from The Mountain Takes. If you've ever pursued something you were willing to die for, if you've ever known that your true dream was worth the risk, subscribe, because there are more stories of mountains that don't care about your experience level, your fame, your accomplishments, or your dreams. They take the best and the worst equally. They take the legendary ski mountaineers the same way they take the novices. The mountain is indifferent. I'll see you on the next descent.